So you end up getting locked up. How long were you in prison?
Initially, I did 3.5.
Okay.
Initially. And I say initially.
Yeah.
Now, that's where the story changed, where this beautiful person came into my life. After I got out, I don't know what I was thinking, because I knew I didn't belong there.
Yeah.
But the money, I wasn't a street guy. Let me just make sure I say that. I wasn't a street guy. And to understand that people that are working, I mean, I would make somebody's salary in a day. Mm-hmm. And to see myself back in there, I just really couldn't envision it. But I got out, was working 2 jobs. And I remember my wife now, when I met her, she was asking me about, just my day-to-day and what it is that I did. And then I ultimately told her.
Welcome to The Dash. You know The Dash is that tiny line between your life start date and end date. It's your story, the chapters in your book, your journey. Get ready for real conversations with real people telling real stories about the realities of failure, setbacks, and success. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go. We're rolling. Let's go. The Dash in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to The Dash podcast. As I always am, I get excited about my guests. I know these people. I know my guests this week, and they have such an inspirational story that I cannot wait for them to share with you. But before I introduce them, do not forget to click on the link, subscribe. Click on the link in my bio. I need you to subscribe. I need you to share. I need you to comment. Help a sister out. We're continuing to grow this Dash podcast and inspire people from across the world. Now, those of y'all that don't know what the Dash is, it's that little bitty line in between your death date and your birth date that seems so insignificant, but it's your story, it's your journey. And when we share that with other people can be inspired, because so many of us feel stuck. So many of us feel like it's our circumstances that are stopping us. So I'm bringing people to share their stories to let you know that you are not alone and you can persevere and you can push through. So today I have Dewayne and Kendra Bryant, a beautiful couple that I love dearly, that are doing some really, really big things. So let me brag on you for a second before we go back and tell people how we got here. You guys, you are looking at 2 Black real estate investors and builders. Hello, somebody.
Hello.
How often can you say that?
Right. Not too often.
Well, welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
We love you.
We love you. I love you back. Okay. Well, first of all, when I say that you're a builder, is that like a whoa moment? Is that like a wow? How did we get here?
I know for me, I'm like, am I a builder? Like, this is really happening.
Yeah, it's
and
really happening.
I've never built before.
Right. So let's talk about that really quick. So you all bought how many acres of land in Red Oak, Texas?
45.
You bought 45 acres of land in Red Oak, Texas, and decided to develop it.
Yes.
Okay, whose bright idea was this?
It was both of ours, to be honest, because I used to be a mortgage, so I understand ownership.
Okay.
And the value of owning land, owning homes, and doing that type of stuff. So it just made sense. Rather than buy a home that's $500,000, buy some land so you can live there and sell and plot off the rest.
Wow, that took a lot of boldness, though.
It did.
Yeah.
It really did. It was quite scary from the beginning.
Yeah.
But when your wife tells you that she doesn't want to actually live on the land, then you had to come up with a plan B. And so that's what we ultimately came into the agreement of saying, we're going to develop the land then. Okay. And just the excitement behind it. When people talk about fear, there's a level of adrenaline rush, from that. And just the excitement of envisioning what it could be. And my wife told me, I remember when we talked about it initially, she said, remember that God does exceedingly and abundantly above. So I just wanted to develop the land. Now we're seeing ourselves being able to establish 40 homes for 40 couples and families, custom homes, and for our community.
Some big old homes, too.
Some big old homes.
These are large homes.
The smallest home right now we got thus far that's being built is a 3,000 square foot. The largest is 4,300 square foot.
Okay.
And everything is modern contemporary on at least a 3/4 of an acre lot.
Oh, congratulations on that. Like, I cannot fathom buying land. Well, I would want to buy the land, but for me, I would be like, I'm going to buy and hold it so I can sell it later. Mm-hmm. Having no experience in building and developing before, like you literally had to start from scratch.
From scratch.
Google.
Right.
Google was your best friend?
Google.
YouTube University?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So let's go back. Because I always say this, and I don't mean this offensively, but you're not supposed to be here.
Absolutely.
You're not supposed to be doing what you're doing right now. Dewayne, I know a bit of your story. You started out as this amazing college athlete that was destined to go to the league. And because of some decisions you made, that dream was deferred. So let's go to I believe it was your senior year in college. You don't have enough credits to make it to NCAA, whatever was going on at the time. Let's talk about that.
It was during your school year, you got to have a certain amount to be eligible for NCAA. And that year, this was back in the early 90s, when people had, let's just say, presents. So when I went home, I found myself with a big head, the only person really from our neighborhood to make it to that level. And to see your name and your pictures in Sporting News and Athlon, Texas football, and you just feeding yourself as if you don't have to do anything else. I was entitled.
You were the man at that time. Well,
I had a couple of more teammates that were more men than I am at that point, but I knew my role, and I was kind of at a place where I felt like nothing could stop me in a sense but myself. Mm-hmm. And went home, enrolled in 2 classes in the summer. And I think when I shared the story a little bit with you before, imagine being 21 years old and coming from the ghetto and everybody just cheering you on because you're going to be the first and you know the truth behind what it is that you're doing. You're slacking. And I remember when they said, my coach called, said, everything is fine. I said, yeah, everything is fine, coach. Knowing I'm lying. I hadn't been to class. I'm used to not going to class because we were entitled. And I remember we went to the teachers. My mom was with me. I'm an only child raised by a woman. And we were on campus. She had the Sport News magazine, the Athlon magazine, taking it to the teachers. Please don't let my baby fail. And I was able to retrieve a 3 credit off of 1. And at that time, it wasn't cell phones. So I had to get the other class, and we could not find the teacher. He had gave the final a week before.
Mm. And you didn't, obviously hadn't shown up to the final.
Obviously. Right.
Okay. Okay. So you're searching for this teacher.
Yeah, we're searching. We're at the president of the Compton College. And matter of fact, the head coach of the football was my little league Pop Warner coach. Everybody was trying to get a hold of him. They knew how big this was. Long and short, we never got a hold of him. I remember 21 years old, sitting on my mama's couch in South Central LA, crying like a baby. And really not understanding the depth of the opportunity that I had at that point. When you're just being carried along the way, you never have that appreciation for it. And to think back on it, and my wife, she hears it all the time, it's more of, I don't even like to talk sports anymore unless it's somebody that I'm close to and they know my story, because it hurts. It still hurts to this day. And I've asked God to deliver me at times, but you still look back on it and be like, what if?
Yeah. So you had this huge opportunity. And again, we hear the story a lot of times. You see it in movies, you hear it, there is a catering that happens often to star athletes, unfortunately, right? And that's what happened to you. You kind of blew the opportunity. So then what happens next? What do you decide to do? Do you now become an entrepreneur?
No, at that point, it was more of academically, I can say that I'm a pretty smart guy. And, I was able to go ahead and get my bachelor's. I became an Omega. I was student government president. And I just focused on trying to get things in order that I didn't have in order before. And at that time, it's like you challenge yourself to say, hey, you're just being mediocre at this point. And the frustrating part is you still fall into that more often than not, because if you don't have anyone around you to push you, and at that time, of course, I didn't have, my wife, that now she just reminds me of the fact that I'm the only person that can get in my way. I didn't have that at 21 and 22.
Right. Okay, so now you're trying to get back focused. How did the part of the story happen where you fell into the wrong crowd?
Well,
and I want to say this to everybody that's watching too. This is not an easy story to share, because this is not a story that Dewayne has shared publicly before. So I appreciate your transparency, because your transparency is going to help so many people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was more of a thing, how you always said, I'm never going to do that.
Yep.
I don't know. You just go in and you have that conversation with yourself. And you also, when you're talking to God, you're like, well, God, how is it that all of these people that are doing these things are getting away with it? You come out of college, and you can imagine during that time, you have a journalism degree, you go work, and you can barely make $25,000-26,000 a year.
Yeah.
I had 3 kids. I had 2 out of high school, and then Dewayne out of college.
Oh, Lord. So you are young. Oh, Lord. 2 out of high school, and my God.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
so you had a lot of responsibility. This was not just about you. You had 3 kids you were trying to take care of on a $27,000 salary. Okay.
And to be in that place, it's like.
And then you're also thinking the fact that you were supposed to be in the league.
Right.
I appreciate you saying that. I think that is mentally where it took me down that route, because in my mind I had to take care of everyone, and no longer was I going to be in a place where you could be making millions a year. So what other way did I found myself was, I'm from LA, I'm in Texas, so what I do, I call everybody back from the hood, and I just go pick up a couple of the things and started everything that I did. I mean, to say that and to hear myself say it, and I've shared it with my family. But it's disappointing for me because of what I was contributing in terms of genocide of our race, community, and culture. And some people can say, yeah, that's cliche-ish to say it, but no, when you get older and mature, you understand that I wasn't adding anything to my community.
Right.
I was really just infecting it.
Dewayne, this is the story that we hear so often, but people aren't telling.
Right.
First of all, the fact that so many of our young Black boys it's athletics.
Right.
It's not about grades. It's not about being focused. It's not about, and then sometimes when that dream is deferred and you did not have a plan B and there was nothing else, everybody who doesn't want to be the hood hero.
Yes.
And then when you are unable to fulfill this dream in your mind, you think that you have no choice oftentimes but to hit the streets. This is the story. You are the story.
Right.
So obviously things didn't work out for you when it came to doing illegal activities.
Well, to say that is something that when you have a mindset spiritually now to understand that, God arrested me, not the federal agents. No one we can talk about when you hear people saying, well, such and such snitched on me and so on and so forth. But the fact is that God grabbed me. And if he wouldn't have grabbed me, I wouldn't be in this place today, sitting here talking to you, being able to say that I am a husband, which I never thought I would be, to say that I am a father now, not just someone's sperm donor. And to be in that place, he sits you down. And you hear those stories where, oh, you just like that because you're in prison. Well, the fact is, yeah, because you have time to reflect. And you reflect on those things that you've always been, well, for myself, I've always been put in positions of leadership. It doesn't matter if it was athletically, it was academically, whatever it may be. I was always in a leadership position, but I never took it because I didn't have a dad. I didn't have anyone in my family who understood what level that I was actually being able to attain in my life. I mean, in every aspect.
Yeah. So you end up getting locked up. How long were you in prison?
Initially, I did 3.5.
Okay.
Initially, and I say initially.
Yeah.
Now that's where the story changed, where this beautiful person came into my life. After I got out, I don't know what I was thinking, because I knew I didn't belong there.
Yeah.
But the money, I wasn't a street guy. Let me just make sure I say that. I wasn't a street guy. And to understand that people that are working, I mean, I would make somebody's salary in a day. Mm-hmm. And to see myself back in there, I just really couldn't envision it. But I got out, was working 2 jobs. And I remember my wife now, when I met her, she was asking me about, just my day-to-day and what it is that I did. And then I ultimately told her, that I had just got out of prison. Mm-hmm. And to this day, it's funny because she looked at me and was like, Lord, why are you, I don't mess with nobody that's been to prison.
Yeah.
And, just to think about that, as I told her during that whole time, it was something that I started getting back into it. It wasn't something that I willfully just went and did it. But when you have people that's in that life that know that you are a moneymaker, mm-hmm. these people will do any and everything to make sure that you're back.
So let me ask you a question. The reality of getting out of prison, mm-hmm. and how tough it is, that transition, because you were used to making a certain amount of money, and then you come out and now first of all, it's hard to find work as a when you have an F on your record. Am I right or wrong?
No, not for me. It wasn't.
Okay, it wasn't hard for you, but the money was different.
Oh, absolutely.
So then when people are coming around you and enticing you with the same opportunities, I don't care how strong a person is, that's enticing and will pull you.
Yes, and it did.
Yeah.
And it did. And that was the thing, because you just, one day, you get dropped off a satchel and you're thinking it's something like blueprints or something. And it's not. It's a blueprint to more money. And once that,
like, literally blueprints. I had never seen that in my life.
Like, y'all I'm confused on blueprints.
I mean, I say that jokingly because it was a satchel of blueprints, but it was actually a satchel of dope.
These people, they're cartel. So, like, these are things that only I've seen in the movies. So I didn't know how, like, this is real. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, because I want to get into what you all are doing, which is fantastic, mm-hmm. now, because, boy, when I tell you, when God gives a person a second chance, you guys are living proof of God giving second chances. And I wanted you to share your story because, yes, you went to prison twice. Mm-hmm. You are not supposed to be a real estate investor. You are not supposed to be a builder. You also owned a restaurant. Like, you've done some amazing things that, again, you're not supposed to be here. And I always say it's about how you use your dash, right?
Yes. Yes.
You could have quit. You could have had the woe is me mentality. Right. You could have, there's so many other decisions that could have been made, but you kept going. There's a resilience that you have, mm-hmm. that what you took, that there is a energy of what you were doing in the streets.
Right.
And you rechanneled it.
Right.
And that's the thing that a lot of us are not, like, a lot of people in the streets are not being taught, is that there is an ability to take, I ain't trying to be funny, you were a businessman in the streets.
Right.
You were a businessman. Mm-hmm. It was just channeled incorrectly. And so there's always a way to restructure and refocus and pivot. Mm-hmm. That's right. So let me ask you, what made you stay?
The Lord, God. And because when we met, it was at a place that we were both working at. And I call it just passing through because I wasn't there long. But they had told me to go sit with him to train with him. And as I was walking over there, then I heard God say so clearly, like, love him. And I looked like, so
your job? Why God ain't told me that?
Right. So I'm looking because it was so clear. And so I was like, okay. So I'm sizing him up as I'm asking him questions. And I actually had just came out of training finding out that this particular, place that they hire,
Felons.
And so that's when I asked him, like, have you ever been incarcerated? So he told me yes. And I'm like, ooh, I need to go and no, Jesus. No. And I kept saying no, because I had a child at the time as well. I had a little girl. And so I'm like, God wouldn't tell me to love. I had just got through saying literally 2 weeks ago to one of my close friends, I would never date anybody that was incarcerated. And here we go.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know, like, because I'm going back and forth in my spirit, like, no, God, this ain't. But maybe just friends-wise, just. And no matter how much I kept struggling within my own self and my family, because I had gone through what I had gone through with my family. I was coming out of a divorce. So I was like, oh, no, geez, she's not bringing me back to this crazy situation. And so, but God kept showing me something like a spirit within him. And so I'm like, because, you think somebody's a felon and they're not going to be smart and have all this and have this spirit about them. At least that's what I was kind of thinking. I was young, And God was showing me no. I mean, he was totally, like you say, he wasn't a street guy. He was a professional, could type 100 words a minute.
Oh, okay, Dewayne. Okay, clerical.
I mean, very administrative, clerical, persistent. I admired his work ethic because he would work overtime and then go to where you were doing auditing, at a hotel. And so I was like, man, this guy is really persistent and about trying to make some money and work.
Love that.
And so, we started talking and he just disappeared one day. But God had given me a dream, though. It was funny because he had showed me that he was going to get in trouble. I didn't know he had gotten back into the whole drugs and all that stuff. Like I said, he literally had blueprints. So I'm like, what are you doing now? Oh, I'm doing plumbing stuff for a contract company. So that's what I was like. He literally had blueprints. And so then all of a sudden, he just disappears. And I was like, where is Dewayne? But I knew I had this dream. And I had told him about the dream.
Yep, she did.
And he said, let me call you back.
Because you don't want to hear that while you doing stuff like that. You don't want to hear that.
He was in another state. And I was like, I told him the dream. And he said, let me call you back. I didn't hear from him. And so one of his close friend that's here, I ended up coming here to DeSoto because I lived in Garland at the time. And I asked him, I said, man, where is Dewayne? He said, he's in prison. I'm like, for what? Had no clue.
Yeah.
No clue. So I wrote him a letter and he wrote me back. And he said, move on, go on with your life. I have messed up and I'll be in here for a while. And so I was like, Jesus, what is, because I have a child, I'm dealing with this, but you told me to love him. So that's what I did.
Wow.
Boy, if you don't hug and love that woman right now, let me tell you, talk about holding you down.
This is my dog.
So you get out.
4 years. Now, on the first stand, it was, 3 years?
And this one was like 3 years and 9 months. But she waited 3 years and 9 months.
How does a person decide? What is that? Because everybody that gets out says, I'm never going back.
Yeah.
How do you decide truly that you're never going back? Is it because of her support? Is it because of her encouragement and her being by your side? Is that what it took?
It took the fact that now it's no longer Dewayne the only child. Dewayne just Dewayne. It's someone who's demonstrated what's most important to me outside of spirituality. We know that's prime and that's number one, but loyalty. And she demonstrated loyalty to me. And for me, that's the biggest thing in the world. And I couldn't let her, and I can't at this point, let her down, nor anybody else in the family, because at this point, we're the ones that have to be the difference makers. We're the ones now that we can start talking about wealth and blessings for the family, generational, that we can know that it's a fact now. But if I went back, who's going to do it? It's nobody. And so I do it for her, the family, and I'm getting that opportunity, what we talked about and touched on earlier, to think about. You said second chances, think about it. I'm having like a fourth chance to think about it. And God has put me in a place again to where I wanted to make millions, and today, literally, we're in a position of a $30 million project.
I'm laughing because, Boy, when he brings it back around, and you ain't got to be getting knocked upside your head on the football field or none of that.
And I ain't got to be out there selling dope.
Again, recapping, you were supposed to be this NFL player, hood hero, making millions. You get in all this trouble. Literally, a lot of people struggle to find work. It is a hard transition back into the real world when you get out of prison. And now God has literally set it up to where you could be making over $30 million on this building project. Ain't nothing but the grace of God.
Nothing but the grace.
So I want to back up just a little bit. You guys had a restaurant that a lot of people knew about, 1011 Grill, which was absolutely amazing. How long did you all own that?
Almost 8 years.
8 years. So you end up having to let the restaurant go, which is devastating when you put so much money into a business, I'm sure.
So much money, so much time, sweat equity, energy. You know, not into just the building it up to people, the community, because we gave back to the community. And so, excuse me, that was really disappointing. And at first I was mad. I was mad because a lot of my paycheck, I was still in corporate America, was going to support the business. And, but he didn't want to sell us the building. And so again, here we are about ownership. Because that's how you capitalize, is owning property, owning the building. Right. And he didn't.
So for 8 years, you're just paying rent.
Just paying rent. $1 million in rent. You know.
Right.
And so I was like, no, we're not gonna keep doing this, because he wanted to increase the rent. And I'm like, we've already gone through all these years. Now you don't want to sell it. You want to increase the rent, or we could either find and acquire, own it, and build. So we were on that journey to do that. But then this opportunity showed up about the development. So it's like, okay, restaurant or develop homes.
So you run across this land, which we spoke about earlier, 45 acres, right?
Red Oak.
Which, okay, we always talk about 40 acres in a mule. You got 40 acres plus 5 extra.
We take the 5 instead of the mule.
Yeah. Amen. So you were the one that saw the land?
We actually, it was a Hispanic guy that had come into the restaurant, and he told us about it. And so we lived in DeSoto, so we're like, we'll just go up to Red Oak and look at it, and we saw it. And the Hispanic guy, I don't know what happened to him, but
it was supposed to be an investment opportunity,
right? But he never came through. We did. So we saw the value, and Dewayne is very, like you said, that he's business savvy. And so, and he's persistent. And anything he puts his mind to, he's going to go after it. And so he's on it. And with him being a journalism major, he knows how to write and talk and all that good stuff. So, and then with the experience that we dealt with the bar, then we knew we needed to go before the city, find out, you know, the details and specifics. And so even though, you know, I don't want to say we lost, because I don't look at it as a loss with the bar, right? I can say I appreciate the journey and what we've learned, because that helped us to be able to cultivate and do what we're doing now.
So you see 45 acres of land for, and if you don't want to answer, you don't have to, but for how much?
It was $500.
For $500,000, which you mentioned earlier, that's about how much you would pay for a home, for one home.
For one home.
So your mindset then was like, we could put property, right? We can build several houses on here and make money.
Yes.
Even with no experience.
Right.
This is what's tripping me out about this. Ain't built not a house,
Not a
B,
house,
okay?
Nothing.
So, buy the land.
Buy the land.
And then look at each other like, okay, so what do we anybody got a tractor?
She said just a minute ago, you know, when my wife made the statement in reference to, you know, we lost, in essence, to say we lost the restaurant. And we both were in a place of discouragement.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and it was because we had put everything into it, and to be, you know, as we're talking, to be transparent, to see how it affected our marriage. And we were doing everything. It was about, we were saying, okay, Lord, we're doing this for a purpose, and we were doing this about giving you the praise and serving people. And to think about it, you know, it didn't really come to fruition of being recognized until, you know, we were fortunate to win the local love awards back to back. And it was this young lady who started this awards that honored, just the entrepreneurs in DFW.
Honoring the Black excellence.
And it
Yes.
was so frustrating during those years to feel as though you had not been recognized, and to think about, as she stated, what we lost, we really didn't lose, because now we're sitting here with you today. When she made reference to the things that I had to go through from the city, those things that you still have, that's what God uses to put you in, catapult you to the next, because I had to go to the whole entire city of Red Oak. So I had already had that experience in Dallas.
But let me ask you this. Let's just be real. Your business, your restaurant business is going under. It's causing a rift in your relationship. You are saying, God, this is your restaurant. We are doing this for you. This is your will, and it still falls through. What makes you still keep investing? Because for a person, I'm going to speak for myself. When you believe God so much and you believe that you're doing God's will and it doesn't work out, you become so afraid to go to the next. And so you find yourself stuck, you find yourself stagnant, and just in a state of paralysis, because if that were God, why did he let it fail?
Right.
So now you can see it hindsight, but the reality of it is, I still can't understand why you still chose. I'm gonna say what it is. We took a loss over here with the restaurant.
That's right.
How are you willing to move on and step out on faith yet again and invest $500,000 into a business that you guys have zero experience in? I'm sorry, y'all, but that does not make sense to me.
Right.
Like, I need help understanding this, because I think there's so many people that are trying to get unstuck.
You want to take that one back? Because, as they say, though he slay us, yet shall we trust him. And people say that, but how do you actually move in it? Because faith, people talk about faith all the time.
And the promises of God.
Yeah. Oh,
And
of course.
oh man, the promise. I knew what God had given me a revelation years ago, that I was going to be wealthy. I just didn't know how. And so I've always worked. I've been working since I was 14. And then when I was in corporate America and I saw how that was, and I was like, oh no, I'm not going to be stuck in this, And so that's why I was always so willing to sacrifice and give my money, because I needed somebody that was like a partner, to try to make this wealth, because I just only went to high school. I didn't go to college. And only by the grace of God and me being willing to do stuff and try and fail, that I've been able to come this far.
Hold up. Pause.
I love it.
You don't even have a college degree. You went to prison for 8 years. You guys own 45 acres of land, and you're about to make, whoa, Lord,
Make it happen,
Jesus' name.
Jesus.
over $30 million
Come on.
Amen.
community.
on a project doing something you have zero experience in. You can't tell me it ain't no God. You cannot tell me there is not a God. That does not even make sense.
Right. That's God.
Also, for everybody that is watching, that is looking at their circumstances, that is saying, I don't qualify. It is the truth. God never asked us to be qualified. He just asked us to be available.
Come on now.
Right.
Oof.
Come on now.
To be available, to be willing to do something, because the rest is faith. And that's what I always said. I'm like, I can't stay where you're going to put a cap on my potential. Dwayne was like, just give me 5 inches. No, I want more than $1 million. You're not going to put a cap on our potential, or what God. Don't put a cap on God. But you got to be willing to open yourself up to move in faith. And that's been my life. When and that was the perfect show that God is going to turn things around, is that they wanted to give him 15 years in prison. And I told the attorney, no, we're not doing 15 years. But I have a car and it's paid off, and I'll go, what do you call that? Put a loan against it to get you a better attorney. And at the same time I was doing this, then I ended up purchasing a house, because I was looking at now I know the value of home ownership. So it wasn't the house that I wanted, but it was something I could afford. And I was like, okay, in 5 years, it's going to appreciate, not knowing that the market was about to fall. Literally a couple of months, the market fell. But he kept me the whole time. I never lost my house.
Come on, Jesus.
After a whole year, and I wasn't working because it was hard for me to go back, to get a job at that time. And I had a child. And that's where I actually met you at Outback. And so
Oh yeah.
that kept me.
Show took care of my wife.
That kept me.
Okay. Well, congratulations. Just real quick, you have been very intentional about hiring Black on this project.
Oh, yes.
So let's talk about, you got Black builders, who you got?
Well,
because one thing that you guys didn't do, you are lifting as you rise,
yes,
and pour back into our community.
Yes.
I want to make sure that what I'm doing here is I'm lifting my hand and raising my hand to say, if you see people out doing something with a purpose, please extend an olive branch to them. It doesn't matter if they have nothing to bring to the table. If you see it within them, be willing to set the table. And let me say that you were saying something earlier in reference to, my wife hears it all the time, like, babe, why isn't anybody coming over and knocking on the door and opening the doors for us? I want to come and sit at the table. And as you were talking about, one of the independent Black builders that we have, I had that conversation with him. And he said, Dewayne, do you realize that you and your wife are setting the table? I've been asking to be invited to the table. Mm-hmm. He made me realize that we're being intentional in setting the table for people to have opportunity. And that just blew my spirit away, and he just overwhelmed me to say, look, everybody else has resources to go and grab. Our resource is the source, and that's what we trust. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, for everybody that's looking and viewing this, look, we ain't had no money like that. Mm-hmm. This project, just to be transparent in terms of developing the whole thing, it's wind up going to be like $3.3 million just developing the dirt. And to think that for people that have a reason to say why they don't want to do anything, faith is moving without knowing. And as you said, it don't make sense. God said, I surpass all understanding. So understanding that there's no understanding, that's when you're going to be mature in Christ. Mm-hmm. Understanding that there's no understanding of how he does it. And that's where we all need to get to. Just move.
That's good. I appreciate that. That's good. So you have you have produced the table.
Yes.
And let's talk about all the Black folks you brought up to it, because it's a lot of people out here now that are able to eat. Y'all are not the only ones eating. There's a lot of people eating right now because you were willing to be intentional.
Right. And let me make sure that I do express in terms of, we have people that saw what we were doing when we were at 1011. And, I'm hoping saying names, but I want to say the names. Mm-hmm. Michael Sorrell.
Shouts out.
And
President
Deborah,
of Paul Quinn College.
And then we got Deborah Bowles.
Amen.
Two people
Love her.
Who believed in us and saw us when we needed some people to come in to assist us to initially get this thing done. And they put their names on the line for us. And, to have two minority investors, my wife and I, now it's 3 Black builders that we have now. HRM, shout out to HRM, 3DL, and now Covenant Homes as well, my fraternity brother. Just seeing all of that come together and the families, all professionals. All of us professionals. Mm-hmm. And I'm not pushing to say it's something that's all we want, but we want to have an opportunity for us to be able to say, hey, I've built a custom home from the ground up. Mm-hmm. And you earned it. You got engineers, you got CPAs, you got doctors over there. Everybody's just sitting over there to understand that we deserve to have it ourselves as well.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So y'all got any lots left? Look, we might as well go and sell these lots too while we're on here. Any lots left?
Yeah, we have about 10 left.
Only look, we have about 10.
We have
That means
about
they got a lot that they've sold. It's I've been over there. It's a beautiful neighborhood.
Yes.
Greatly, there's water, the little fountain, all that good
Your
stuff.
JC when it was dirt at first, and we got water and everything.
Got
now.
water and everything. So if anybody is interested in coming and purchasing a lot, again, we might as well get these lots sold right there in Red Oak, Texas. Beautiful, beautiful neighborhood. How can they get in touch with you guys? And maybe they have questions. Maybe there's someone interested in doing what you're doing, and they're just seeking a little bit of help or mentorship. How can they contact you all?
They actually, in terms of the subdivision itself, Hidden Creek 3 Estates, the number 3, Hidden Creek 3 Estates.com, or you can go to builtbybryants.com. And as Jay just said, I mean, for anybody that's out there, listen, we're learning too. And so, we're open. And the people that I do have, in our circle, I thank God for them. And everybody looks at us as if, we're doing such a big thing. And we know we're doing a big thing. But at the same time, what we're wanting more than anything is to establish a team. We need a team. And that's where our community, sometimes we suffer because everyone is not willing to come together. When you come together, the collective is more powerful.
That's good. Well, thank you. You two have, every time I hear this story, I learn more, and it just blows my mind. So thank you all for being transparent and open enough. There's somebody, it's the right person that's watching today that said, I needed this.
Amen.
I needed to know that my disqualification is what is going to set me up for me to be able to do great things. Because you're right, God can do exceedingly abundantly above all we can ever think or even imagine. So we have to stop letting the world tell us that we're not qualified.
Yes.
And we have to just be willing to just show up. Show up as that empty vessel, just to say, I ain't got what you're looking for, but just teach me how to do it, and I will do it. And that's what's happening with you guys. So
Amen.
to the Bryants, I love you guys. Thank y'all so much, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Jay.
See, y'all, that's how you use your dash.
I love it, Jay.
Thanks for the support. Make sure you subscribe to the Dash Podcast YouTube channel. Also, we're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. And feel free to share it with some family and friends. Thanks, guys.